Does this ever happen to you? You come up with an awesome idea for a movie, and when you write Act 1, it's really easy. But then it comes time to write Act 2, and you have no idea what to write. Well, I'm going to show you what to do. Hello everyone, and welcome to Doom Productions. We make feature films and videos about filmmaking. My name is Jordan, and today I'm going to show you how to write an incredible second act. There are a ton of different reasons why the second act is hard for people to write. In my opinion, it usually comes down to planning. When I first started writing and I came up with an idea for a new movie, I usually came up with my beginning and my ending first because that's what excited me the most. And I wouldn't outline or plan anything, I would just start writing. And as many people can probably relate, Act 1 felt very easy, but when it came time to doing Act 2, my brain just froze and I had no idea how to get my story from the beginning to the very end. And I was getting stuck because I wouldn't plan out my Act 2. When you write, you have to juggle a lot of different things. You have to be aware of the character's journey, the themes, the dialogue, the action lines, among many other things. For me, it's really difficult to come up with a story as I try to juggle all of those things all at once. So what I do is I remove the story from the equation and I meticulously plan out my films in 4 simple stages. Stage 1 is the beat sheet. Here, it's the entire story told in about 9 to 15 sentences. I focus on broad strokes of what's going to happen. Stage 2 is the outline. Here, I flesh out the details of what happens. So I'm thinking about the emotional journey of the characters a little bit more. I expand on the theme a little bit. It's not as super short as the beat sheet, but it's not super long either. Stage 3 is the scriptment, and the scriptment is essentially the entire script with no dialogue. I write the slug lines and the action lines as they will appear in the final script, but all the dialogue is summarized in just red text. Then stage 4 is just adding in that dialogue. I work in these stages because it's easy for me to write when I can separate the different elements of a script. I think what can give a lot of writers that second act slump is a lack of planning. It's easy to be overwhelmed by all the different elements of a screenplay when you're doing it all at once. But putting my methods aside, let's dive into the second act itself. Whether you're coming up with the second act during the planning stage or writing the script, what makes a good second act? So in the second act of a screenplay in a typical Hollywood narrative, the status quo has changed forever. Your lead protagonist wants nothing more than to get back to the status quo. Or maybe your lead character just wants something. Regardless, in Act 2, your character has a strong desire. They want something, and they work towards this goal. And there's obstacles that come up. Think of it like this. Your lead character is a rabbit chasing a carrot on a stick. And every time the rabbit is within reach of that carrot, the carrot is yanked back. Or maybe the rabbit steps on a nail, or falls in a hole, or a wolf starts chasing the rabbit, or whatever. So when you're coming up with Act 2, think to yourself, what's the meanest thing I could do to my main character? And then do it. Do it over and over and over again until your lead character is broken, which essentially leads us into Act 3. But that's not all the second act is. The second act isn't just a torture chamber for your lead character. Well, actually, it is, but that's not why it's engaging. The second act is engaging because of the central dramatic question, otherwise known as the theme. Your lead character believes in something. They think they have it all figured out. For example, let's say your lead character is a hot-headed loner type, right? They believe that they can do anything on their own. They don't need help. The opposite belief would be that they can't do anything on their own. They need help. This is the antithesis. The second act of your screenplay is a push and pull between thesis and antithesis. Every obstacle, every struggle, every problem that your character encounters, that's proof that their belief is false, that what they previously thought to be true is not true. So in our hypothetical screenplay where the lead character believes that they can do anything on their own, their struggle would be accomplishing things on their own. They can't do everything on their own. Each major failure would be because of their refusal to accept help. The halfway point of your script is usually where the protagonist is open to the idea of the antithesis. Their world is rocked enough so that they begin to think that maybe there's another truth out there. They're not ready to accept another truth, but they're open to it. And just to spice things up after the halfway point, Maybe the character tries to do things in according to the antithesis. Maybe in our hypothetical movie, the protagonist accepts help from someone and they still fail. And the end of the second act is where your protagonist's belief system is so rocked, so shaken that they don't know what to believe anymore. They don't believe in what they did before, and they can't believe in the antithesis. And that's when the synthesis comes in during the third act, but that's another video for another time. So how do you come up with ideas for Act 2? For me, it's all motivated by theme and character. I have to know what the theme is. I have to know what the thesis and antithesis are, and I need to know what the synthesis is so I can build towards that. Speaking in more practical terms, think of it like this. At the beginning of Act 2, the protagonist wants to go back to the status quo. So write what they would do to get there first. That's their trajectory. Then thwart that plan. Remember, think of the meanest thing you could do to your main character. The second act is really all about constantly forcing your lead character to change their trajectory, to change their directions over and over and over again until they're broken. Now, keep this in mind. This sort of structure is very typical for a classical Hollywood narrative, but it doesn't mean that's how every film should be made. There's some great films that don't use this structure whatsoever. In fact, all of my favorite films abandon this structure entirely. But my philosophy is, once you know the rules, you'll know when and how to break them. And remember, film is a subjective art form. There's no right or wrong way to do things. At the end of the day, just focus on writing a movie that you would like to see. Because if you're not writing something that pleases you, what's the point in writing at all? Thank you for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. It only takes a couple seconds out of your day, but it would mean a whole lot to us. Plus, we promise to put out really cool videos in return. Thank you again. Hope you all have a good day.